Rev up your engines!
It's Dank Says. Okay, so I'm getting a new car. I'm starting out my driving career. My father found a Volkswagen Beetle for fairly good price. But personally, it's not my kind of car. What are your thoughts? Okay, I just made a video on Volkswagen Beetles. Watch it. It'll explain a bunch. It depends what your father's talking about. If you're talking about he's buying an old 70s or 60 Volkswagen Beetle that's been repaired, those things can run forever. They're cheap to maintain as long as they've been repaired and they run good now. If he's talking about the modern, what they call new Beetle, you don't want that car. They're endless money pits. They fall apart. They have one of the worst track records for automatic transmission failures. But that said, if it's a standard transmission new Beetle, they can be okay, decent cars. And if he's giving you one for free, what the heck? But don't even think about getting one that has an automatic transmission. Willie G. Hardigan, Willie says, Scotty, can you tell if you have a leaking exhaust manifold? How can you check it? Generally, it makes noise. The exhaust manifold, most of them are made out of cast iron, and they bolt in two places. There's a bunch of bolts where they bolt to the head of the engine. Normally, they'll leak at the header gasket there. And when they leak, they'll often leak when you start the car up first, and you'll hear a little ticking or tit-tit-tit noise, and you'll be able to feel with your fingers when the engine's cold, because you don't want to put your fingers on a hot engine, but when it's ice cold first thing in the morning, you can feel the leaks coming out of it. Or the manifold itself goes into the exhaust system where the header pipe of the exhaust bolts onto that. A lot of times that O-ring will go, the donut will go out that's in there, and you could feel it leaking there. You always hear them because that's where the most pressure of your exhaust is, and if there's a hole, it's going to make noise, especially when you rev it up, and especially when it's cold, because metal shrinks when it's cold, and when it heats up, if it expands, sometimes they won't leak that much, or even at all once they warm up. The Machine says, could you explain the difference between air suspension and regular suspension? Which cheaper to fix in the long run? Well, the regular ones are, because regular suspension, nowadays most cars have McPherson struts, at least in the front, and some have that and shocks in the back, but most have McPherson struts in the front and McPherson struts in the back. And it's a racing design, and they actually handle quite well that way. Now, if you're talking about air suspension has the addition of air pressure going into them. It can lift it up, lift it down for carrying heavier weights, and the really fancy modern ones will have an air suspension system that's also computer controlled, and they're very complex. But when they break, ooh-wee, like I've had customers with, say, a fancy Expedition or a Cadillac, and when that air suspension breaks, there are actually companies out there that sell replacement kits that are conventional kits, and they'll cost like maybe less than 1/3 of what the air suspension does to replace. A lot of guys will just switch them back if they have them old and they want to keep driving the car and they don't want to fix all that fancy expensive air stuff. It does cost a lot of money. Kevin Lewis says, Scotty, what do you think about ultra capacitors? Oh, I have a video on that shows how you can jumpstart your car with itself. They can recharge really fast and then let all that electricity back really fast. They can't hold electricity for long periods of time. Like, for example, the new Cadillac is using that when you brake, it's charging the super cap, and then once you take your foot off your gas and take off, the super cap sends it to an electric boost motor, and then it gives it more power. So they work quite well. And that device that I was talking about, it really fascinated me. It's almost like magic, but it works. You can get a battery that won't start your car to go like, well, as long as that battery still has at least 4.5 volts or so left in it, and most will even have 8 to 10 volts in them, you hook up the super cap charging device to it, and you wait 3 to 5 minutes. With super caps, it can actually, and the electronics inside the little box, it can bump that up to 12.5 volts. 3 to 5 minutes, it'll start the car, and your bad battery is actually used to start itself up. It's fascinating technology. Now, if the battery's completely flat because some idiot left the headlight on all night and it's got no voltage, it doesn't work, but they do work quite well. It's very interesting technology. William Munoz says, Scotty, I have a 98 Chevy Astro van. Has issue with the fuel gauge. The gauge keeps getting stuck at half and full. I replaced the fuel pump and cluster, but no luck. Well, generally, when that happens, it's the sending unit inside the gas tank. It goes up and down, and if it sticks at a certain place, that means that it's either sticking inside the tank or the resistor inside is broken and not giving the correct reading. The only things that can go wrong with those things are the float goes bad in the tank, the wiring between the tank and the gauge in the dash goes bad, or, since it's a GM product, it could have a problem in the body control module. But I've never seen one with a body control module where it would stick at full or halfway. That's almost always inside the gas tank. When I fix them, I pull the gas tanks, put a new one out, it almost always fixes that particular problem. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.